All right, so the next section will be the various type of on-road bikeways. We'll start off with an objective planning tool that's useful for the subject of on-road bikeways. Bicycle level of service is an official measure, and it's been around for probably now 25 years. It was developed in Florida with Florida DOT funding, I believe. It is an objective measure of how comfortable adult or teen cyclist will feel on a roadway as a function of the traffic conditions and the roadway geometry. So this is important because with elected officials, with government staffers, you get a wide range of subjective opinions on how bike friendly a particular road is. One time I did a couple of different bike plans in neighboring towns. In one town, the public works guy was a triathlete and he was fine on any road. So his opinion of what was bike friendly was a certain way. The next town over, a guy probably hadn't ridden his bike since he was 10 and he was 60 years old. So maybe a cul-de-sac is a bike friendly road and that's it. So when you deal with a very subjective issue such as how comfortable a roadway is for bikes, it's important to bring an objective tool to the discussion, whether you're making your case to elected officials or whether you're a planner trying to prioritize where to make improvements. Here's a website from the organization I worked at in Illinois, where you can actually plug in some numbers for your roadway. You can find traffic counts often online. Florida has an online resource to find traffic counts for roadways. You can find out what the widths of the road are and get an idea of how comfortable that roadway is for that adult and teen segment of the population. A good target for bicycle level service is C if you're trying to accommodate the more club level traffic tolerant cyclist. But if you're trying to appeal to a broader range of people, such as what you might do in a bike plan for a town, you might target a B. And one thing that this formula does spell out is that if you have striping, such as a shoulder or bike lanes, you tend to get an improvement of about 1 grade. So that's a helpful tool. Okay, so now that we have an objective tool, we'll go through what's in the toolbox of on-road bikeway types. The first one, which is a very general and flexible treatment, is simply having bike route signs. The signs have been around for decades. The trend nationally lately has been to bring more wayfinding information to those signs. So the figure that you see in the bottom left is now used in place of bike route signs in many locations. Again, bike routes can be used in a bunch of different roadways, different widths. It can have striping, it doesn't have to have striping. It just means that this is a preferred route in my bike network for that town. Next up is bike lanes. These are very common here in Florida, more so than Illinois. I'm jealous, actually. And what I'll say about bike lanes is that they are on both sides of the road. They do tend to promote a higher level of comfort for cyclists, so it tends to draw more cyclists, especially when it's lower speed. Some of the higher speed bike lanes may not attract as many people, but for those lower speed locations where you have a lot of intersections, a lot of commercial entrances, and so on, even driveways for residents, bike lanes may be more appropriate. These provide dedicated space for cyclists, which does provide comfort. It provides a traffic calming effect if you have a very wide roadway. By narrowing the lanes, it does tend to slow down traffic. And it also helps have it so cyclists bike on the correct side of the road instead of on the left side of the road. Different ways to implement bike lanes. If you have a given amount of width for the asphalt on your road, if you don't have the ability to widen it for whatever reason, you could narrow the traffic lanes if the traffic lanes are too wide. Some roadways have lanes that are wider than 12 feet, but 12 feet often is a default. The good news is that according to the Florida Green Book and national research, if you have speed limits that are moderate to lower, you can go less than 12 feet. You can go down to 11 feet, or on many local roads that are slower, even down to 10 feet. With that extra width, you can now, you might have enough room to stripe a bike lane. So that's a way without adding asphalt to implement bike lanes if there's an opportunity. Another way to implement bike lanes is with something called a road diet. Maybe you have a 4-lane road that doesn't have a whole lot of traffic. It seems like it's maybe overbuilt a little bit. Maybe it's a place where you have to have people cross the roadway. Maybe it's a roadway where cars get hit from behind when they're sitting in the left turn lane waiting to make a left turn. A solution to all of those would be to restrike the roadway, as you see in this photo here, where you now have one through lane in each direction. You have a center left turn lane. And oh, by the way, there's enough extra room left over that you can strike bike lanes. So this could be a treatment that solves many different issues. Buffered bike lanes is now in the Florida Design Manual for FDOT's roadways. Their standard is when there's available room to install 7-foot buffered bike lanes. And these are simply bike lanes that have an additional stripe either on the parking side if it's a road with parking, or on the traffic side if not. So this does provide a higher level of comfort again. There are some rules that you can find in the NACTO guide in particular on when you need to add the cross hatching and so on. But this is a preferred way of doing bike lanes these days.